Please pray with me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. More of you, O Christ, less of me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts draw us closer to you, O God, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Anyone here actually spent some time in absolute darkness, like in a cave underground? Brian, which cave? Carlsbad Caverns. Brian? Ooh, lava tubes in Hawaii. Oh, lava tubes in Lassen, too. Anybody else? Anybody else actually? Joyce? Old coal mine in West Virginia. Well, my first time in absolute darkness was at the Caverns of Sonora near the ranch. And I can tell you that, and it's usually part of any cave tour. We've also done this at Mammoth in Kentucky. Colleen and I experienced it there. In any cave tour, organized cave tour, at some point when you're deep in the cave, they will turn the lights off for a moment because they want you to have that experience of what total darkness is. The kind of darkness where you put your hand up, and they usually tell you to do this. Put your hand next to your face and you can't see it. And some people get very, very nervous, and some people, like me, think it's really cool. Really cool. Now, I admit, when you're on a cave tour and there's a guide and there's lots of other people and you have a sense that this is safe. I'm not sure those early spelunkers, when they go in and their light goes out, they feel that's safe. But it does make you think a little bit about how you navigate when you've lost one of your senses. And one of the things that I noticed and thought about a lot was I have friends who are blind. Now, some are kind of partially blind. They can sort of see light and et cetera. But I do have a friend named Lisa Largess who is completely blind, and really, it's like a cave. And you know that part of what happens when you get into a place where one of your senses is completely gone, your body automatically starts to raise up other senses to try to make sense of where you are. So if you've been around blind people, they usually have amazing hearing, and they often will have phenomenal touch, not just to read Braille, but to kind of navigate the world. And sometimes, and this was true for Lisa had sort of a sixth sense about people who were good for her and people who were bad for her. She could sense people's energies in a way that sighted people didn't always. She was not fooled by what you look like, by what kind of clothing you're wearing. She heard and felt your soul. So this sense of being shrouded in mystery or in a, quote, dark place, this is what Terry was talking about, could actually be the place where parts of you develop that you didn't know you had. It could be a time when you begin to discover that you have more than one way to know things in the world. It can be a time when spiritual knowing, mystical knowing comes to the fore. For example, There is the famous book, which I know Liz has read for sure, The Dark Night of the Soul by St. John the Cross. This is an ancient mystical tome. And he lost his vision and was in total darkness in his cell for a long time. And in that darkness is when he truly found faith, found God. This is a classic pattern, actually, for many mystics. Many of them became ill, and it's in their illness that they discover a deeper faith and a deeper sense of who they are and what really matters. Most of us know this. Most of us know this, even if we aren't, people who, read a lot of mystical literature. I certainly, during the AIDS years, learned that many people who have a terminal diagnosis will actually become a lot happier. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but life means more. And I have had more than one person going through something really awful say that the thing that's really awful is actually a blessing. I know I've told some of you about the women in New Orleans who said, I lost everything and found who I am. They found out who they are and what really matters, and often found a deeper, stronger, more effective, for lack of a better word, faith. So as ordinary human beings, we rightly don't run into experiences that would hurt us. I'm not going to put the hand on the stove to find out what hot will do. I'm not going to do that. Some medieval mystics did do things like that, but I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying the ordinary stuff that comes to us, for whatever reason, whether it's the death of a child, whether it's the death of a beloved friend, whether it is a diagnosis that scares you, or it's an injury, Robin, right? You hurt your foot and you find out what it means to rest. Am I right? I'm not trying to out you, but here, because we've had that conversation, and I think you'd have that conversation with most of us. You injured your foot, you slowed down, and you found out a few things. And you had to lean on others, didn't you? So while we want to resist and throw a great big pity party, my invitation today is to say to you, could you get excited when they turn the lights off? Could you get excited when they turn the lights off? Now, this text from Matthew has a couple of other things in it that I want to talk about. This salt of the earth. What's interesting is when we use that phrase, she's a salt of the earth kind of person. And this is one of those, the lectionary right now is just serving up the greatest hits of the Bible that have come into popular culture with different meanings. Usually when we say somebody's salt of the earth, we think that they're basic, they're trustworthy, they're somebody you can count on to be not fancy or frilly or problematic. There's somebody that's solid that you can count on. It's, I think, one of the greatest, and nobody says this about me. No one says she is the salt of the earth. Seriously, I'm not that. Although maybe the way Matthew means it, is that you should be fully who you are. Be salty. Be salty. Be big flavor. Bonnie will tell you that she's got about 25,000 versions of salt. I have eaten many of them at her house. She's got omnivore salt. She's got black weird salt from Iceland, and I don't know where else. She's got all these fancy salts. And they all have amazing flavor, and they have different flavors, because salt is not, come on, we live in gourmet Gulch here. We know that, salt is not, it's not just salt. There's salt, and then there's salt, and then there's pink salt, and there's black salt, and there's salt from, the Dead Sea, and maybe you want to take a bath in that instead of eat it, all those things. But what salt has, the way Matthew is talking about it, is be your full flavored self. And if you're not your full flavored self, which actually a salt of the earth person might not have a lot of flavor. They might be very trustworthy, very basic, but are they something that you go, oh, wow, that person is really fully who they are. Fully who they are. Be salty. Be exactly who you're supposed to be. Be exactly who you're supposed to be. And guess what? You'll probably learn that in those times of mystery when you have to rely on senses other than the ordinary ones. That's how you find out what your real full flavor is. And when you do that, then you become a light in the darkness. You are a shining light. That's when we become who we are. And that's collectively when we become the city of God, when we become that light that attracts people. So there's a t-shirt that I keep seeing online. The algorithms obviously have me pegged. And you may have seen that the sermon title is this: Be salty, stay lit. I've decided to take that up as sort of a mantra. Be salty. Be your full flavored self. Do not sell yourself short, and be lit. Do not hide your light under a bushel basket, even if they can't really take you, right? I know that when I'm in my full, saltiest, fully lit self, some people just run the other way. I've been told by more than one person, I'm scary. So try not to be scary, but I also am not going to hide who I am, because I was called to be this, for better or worse. I have a role to play, and sometimes I just need to, learn how to dim it down a little. And I've told some people, if you think I'm being too salty or too lit, feel free to just say this, turn it down, dial it down a little. I'm happy for that to happen. Be salty. Stay lit. Be who you are. And know also that when the mystery or the darkness comes, that is the moment when you will find out who you really are and who else is with you in the darkness. And for some of us, that will be the deepest experience of the holy we ever have. Sometimes it'll be the people you find who will be with you when it's scary, when it's mysterious, when it's difficult, when it's challenging. But those are the times that we find out what it really means to be who we are. May it happen for all of us. And may we be that city on the tiny little hill where people say, hey, those people are salty and lit. Amen.